Hello, everybody. It's me, GamePango21, and today, oh goody. So I decided that I wanted to do a Harman Smith video this week because, quite honestly, I have been sort of out of it trying to make videos and trying to come up with interesting video ideas. And, well, I came across something interesting. If you kind of look through the current thing that I'm possibly scrolling through on the screen right now because I haven't really decided what I'm going to be doing with it, you'll see something very strange about Harman's channel. That's right, he's actually putting in some oddly strange, correct effort into his videos. That is to say that the thumbnails aren't like the automatically generated ones that he normally has. They actually have some Photoshop skills behind it. Now, does that mean that he's actually put some thought into a lot of the videos? No. But dressing up a turd is still putting in somehow more effort than I thought it would be. But one thing I also wanted to talk about this week was the Xbox Game Pass price increase, which I didn't realize was happening. So I decided that since I'm going to be killing two birds with one stone, and I kind of wanted to do another maybe Harman week, we're going to look at a couple of videos this week by Harman himself. Not the full videos, obviously, but enough of the videos to get the point across because, again, he still does have videos being absolute dog shit, but they now are having a little bit of the sparkle to it. So, quite interesting. So I'm going to commentate over both of the couple of videos this week, and today we're going to be doing the Xbox Game Pass has raised its price by Harman Smith. Now, I'm not going to be defending Game Pass at all in this, or maybe I will, but only to a very light extent. My overall opinion on this is the Xbox Game Pass price increase kind of sucks. And it sucks in a way that, a lot of people don't really most people, not that a lot of people don't really understand, my mistake, that most people understand that it's now $30 for the top tier, and that sucks, like, a lot. So, without further ado, let's get started.
After all that shilling, all that attempts at gaslighting you into thinking that Xbox Game Pass was the future, that it was the most affordable way to play games, that this was some huge monumental success story, that it was such a great way to expand your library and play games you had never heard of, something that was supposed to be great for Xbox first party and indie games alike. Xbox Game Pass was supposed to be the most pro-consumer service on the market. $15 a month, and you get to play everything on the service. That was the narrative. It was so much better than Nintendo Switch Online with its back catalog of the best games ever made. No, like Xbox was charging you $15 for a bunch of games that you could buy.
Oh boy, lower than $15 a month or lower than $15 in general? First of all, let me just say this. That's not something that anyone was really saying, as far as I could tell. At least to the same extent that Harman is kind of pushing it. A lot of people did say it was a better deal than Xbox. The Xbox Game Pass was the best deal in gaming, and at the time, that kind of was true. I mean, yeah, $15 a month, you get a whole bunch of library of games, and you just can rent them and, play them and do a lot of stuff with them. And, you also get games from Xbox day one. That just happens to happen. And yeah, all of that stuff is true, and it still kind of is true even with this price increase. But now it's not as good of a deal anymore because, again, the price has practically doubled in the past 2 years, which sucks a lot of monkey balls. And that's the part that everyone is upset about, that it's actually practically doubled in price in the amount of time that people have been trying to maintain their whole lives, because everything's just getting more and more expensive and nothing is keeping up with everything getting more and more fucking expensive. It just so happens in that context. Now, to say that it was better than Switch Online, is also true because, yeah, Switch Online does technically have some interesting cloud gaming stuff, but I mean, again, beating that meaning that the fact that like you can buy games still off of Game Pass, and that, you get a discount code, which I still don't think you should be paying for discounts, but all the other stuff, like, there was way more benefits to Xbox Game Pass, and there still is, to Nintendo Switch Online, which gives you very little, if anything, beneficial-wise. But I find it interesting how, again, he's comparing it to Nintendo and, not just berating Microsoft because, Microsoft just did a bad thing. No, 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 no. It has to be because they were trying to diss Nintendo.
At a lower price point on sale. So, again, the Xbox Game Pass thing was always a cope, especially because we all knew where it would inevitably lead. We all knew how this would end up, and we're now at that point. We have now reached the tipping point of Xbox Game Pass's official failure. They have raised the prices to $30 a month. Twice as high as it was a couple of years ago. You are now expected to pay $30 a month for access to games that would be cheaper.
So what? Hold on. So you have to pay $30 a month that would be cheaper if you just bought the games for, what, $70 a piece for each of the games? You know that's not how pricing kind of works in this context, right? Well, I'm, again, not saying that the price increase is a good thing. In fact, I think it's a very bad thing. Yeah, certainly $30 a month isn't the worst amount you could pay for a monthly subscription. I just think it's the most expensive out of all of the other ones, because I think that, like, for Netflix and other streaming services, it's like, what, less than $20 per those, but those are different services and they offer different entertainment values, so there's that. But again, with Xbox Game Pass specifically, if we're talking about that, it still sucks that the thing actually doubled in price within the past, like, 2 or 3 years, and I'm not defending that. There is no way I could possibly say, oh no, that's a good thing. Not at all. But I find that weird that how most people, when they say this sorts of stuff, say that it's a failure because the price has increased. That's not necessarily meaning that it's a failure. It just means that they need more money because they are a greedy corporation that fucking sucks. And I find it interesting how, again, he will say that Microsoft is a failure because they had to increase the prices of their stuff, but will not say that Nintendo Switch is a failure because they also had to increase the price of their stuff. It just makes it very weird to me that that's how that works. So,
if you just straight up bought them, there is no reason to pay for Xbox Game Pass. There is no benefit to it. There is no reason to do it. Like, if you're gonna play games on Xbox, just pay for the games you want to play and don't bother with the online subscription service. But that isn't something.
What the fuck do you mean? You mean willing to pay play online, that they have to do that? Or do you just mean that in general they are going to not willingly be paying to rent the video game? What the fuck does this even mean? This is one of the problems that I have with Harman, in the sense that he doesn't seem to understand what it does. And this is the problem that I have with most of these fanboys. That they say, oh, no one is willingly going to do X, Y, and Z when it comes to that. They won't buy games. Like, Xbox players won't buy games, even though, Xbox players do buy games. I always find it funnily stupid. I'm a little tired, it's the morning. But I always find it really fucking stupid how people continuously say that Xbox, you can't do anything, you can't buy anything, they won't buy stuff. And that's just one of the things that's not necessarily true, that they do buy games, and that you do buy games and can buy games through Game Pass. But, like, they won't willingly do it. Why, though? And I'd like to hear Harman's reasoning as to why they won't, decide, okay, this is too expensive, I'm just gonna go buy my games. And again, like, oh yeah, you can buy the games because they're cheaper than $30. I mean, I guess some of them are now, but like, where are you going with this?
That anybody is going to be willing to do. I'm sure the big Xbox shills, people like Angry Joe, people like that, they're going to make all kinds of gigantic copes about this situation. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try and write off.
Was that a cut? Like, huh. Yeah, I haven't actually talked about this, but his setup seems to be slightly better. Like, the camera quality is still kind of garbo and dog. But at the same time, he is actually using a USB powered microphone, that it seems, and it also seems that the camera that he has now kind of more follows him and actually centers him in the camera, making it easier to, see him. So there's that. I also noticed that he's wearing what I believe to be the Berserk necklace. I mean, I guess props for that. If you can hear the air conditioner in the background, I probably should turn that off if I'm going to be doing this again. But, like, dude, I guess this is a better setup, but why does the microphone and the camera quality still look the same as it always does? Is it because he's rendering out the videos in, like, 1080p or, like, even worse than that? It's just, I don't know. It's weird.
All of the very real problems with this service, all the while downplaying the vastly superior Nintendo Switch Online service, which includes things like game chat, which includes online play, which includes Nintendo Classics, which leads up to GameCube. I've been saying for a long time that Nintendo Switch Online far surpasses Xbox Game Pass. $20 a year for classic games. Okay, 50 if you're going for the expansion.
I mean, I guess, but $20 to $50 a year for Nintendo Switch Online, which has a lot of the features that majority of the other game services had already, including things like, online game chat and party systems and streaming your games and stuff like that, including cloud services as well, and also classic games. Like, all three of the big three, obviously, have those systems. They've had those systems for years. Nintendo only recently just added dog shit versions of those. As in, like, they're not as good or as high quality, they're not as interesting or as deep, they're not as entertaining, I guess. Maybe not entertaining, but they're not as good as some of the other stuff here is. So what you're telling me, for whatever reason, is the sheer fact that that's just paying for that. And what sucks is that the majority of that is still having to pay to play online. All three of them do that, and all three of them suck for doing that. But $50 a year, I don't think that's correct in terms of how much that they actually pay to play. But maybe that's just me. I don't remember the specific price point for it, and I don't feel like looking it up right now because, quite honestly, again, I'm really tired and I'm doing this a little bit earlier in the morning than I normally do, but dude, no way that this thing was $50 a year or whatever. Like, motherfucker. Anyway, let's move on.
Pack. Which is significantly more cheaper than Xbox Game Pass was even before the price hikes. I have been maintaining that Nintendo has dominated with the superior online service for years, but the giant cope among the community is that nobody wants to play old Nintendo games, that Nintendo Switch Online is pointless because of pirated games on emulation, that Nintendo has.
I don't think that anyone really says that Xbox Game Pass is the future. If they do say that, that's kind of dumb. But there's a lot of other reasons to, talk about why Nintendo themselves aren't good for the wider gaming community. For one reason, and the biggest reason that I can think of, is that they don't like to, have the whole competition thing. They've made patents that have basically tried to copy or patent specific game mechanics that ultimately are going to not push innovation forward in terms of gameplay and mechanical systems within those games, and all in an effort to try to, not have to compete in various contexts. I mean, I think in the next video we're going to probably be talking about the Pal World v Pokemon whatever the fuck drama. That's going to be another Harman video, because that's going to be another one that a lot of people have been talking about. But overall, like, again, I find it interesting how he can't just say that this company did a bad decision, but no, it has to be because they were trying to compete, or trying to, quote unquote, trying to compete with Nintendo. Because, like, dude, Nintendo is just doing their own thing, and they are still making bad decisions in a lot of ways. Like, you can have something that literally doesn't have anything to do with Nintendo, but I guess he just can't, because that's just not how Harman works. But again, I'm not saying this to defend the Xbox Game Pass price hike, because the Xbox Game Pass price hike doesn't really seem to offer more than what it already does, and the price seems to be increasing for no reason, I guess. Again, just because that they had a similar-ish service to something that Nintendo copied from other people doesn't mean that they're doing it. And who the hell wants Nintendo to go third party or have to do with like pirated or emulated games? The thing is that a lot of the games that are on Nintendo Switch Online are actually emulated software, which is what a lot of people have said, which is actually true. And that's just dumb that you have to, at least to some people, that you have to rent emulated games from Nintendo, and that Nintendo will literally destroy your system even if you are abiding by most of the rules, or even all of the rules, if that's the case. It's really dumb. So there's a lot more reasons that Nintendo kind of sucks right now, and a lot of them are really bad. So anyway.
No business competing in this space, that they should just go third party and stop producing new hardware, because Xbox Game Pass is the future. That's something we were told a lot when the Game Pass service first premiered. It was supposed to be this huge monumental thing, and it never really took off, in spite of YouTubers constantly doing everything they possibly could to shill this as some
That's not entirely wrong.
major thing for Xbox, because it does need to be said that the Xbox console brand is over.
It's been confirmed that one more Xbox console has been confirmed, but that's besides the point.
Right? They are phasing out the console. They are going full tilt on this service. This is the future of their brand. They are never again going to produce a full-on Xbox console, because they want to turn the brand into a service. And in doing so, they are in the process of raising their prices, eliminating the plastic box that just takes up space, and having its fans just relentlessly just shill the idea. Xbox Game Pass is going to be a service that's,
I mean, for the last one about it being on Nintendo, I guess there's no real reason for it to happen. I mean, Xbox would want it to happen, obviously, because they want their thing to be on every location that they can get their hands on. And yeah, they do seem to be phasing out at least the physical versions of things for a while, because, it seems that they want to cut costs or do something along those lines. It's really weird, because Harman is not entirely wrong. But again, you can see one of the reasons why a lot of people make videos on him, because even when he makes points that are actually objectively kind of correct in some kind of weird way, he still has to make it all about Nintendo and all about how everyone's trying to, quote-unquote, kill Nintendo because, quote, Nintendo is too big and is dominating the gaming industry, when they're only really dominating their own gaming industry niche, which isn't the whole gaming industry. And that's the problem that I always seem to have, that most people seem to have, with at least most of these Nintendo guys, that they basically say all of these fantastical things and all of these amazing things that Nintendo does and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to call it there, because usually around the halfway point is when Harman starts to, repeat himself and go back and just alter what he said even in the same video. And this video is already getting into the 20-minute mark, so there's that. But overall, what is the main points that I want you to take away from this video? Well, one is that the price hike for the Xbox Game Pass sucks, and that you really shouldn't be, having a service that is that expensive, at least in terms of renting or something. I mean, again, if you really want to pay for it, it's fine. But, the Xbox Game Pass price increase isn't really a good move, especially what Xbox did last time when they increased the prices of all of their consoles and shit not too long ago. So that's kind of bad, and if not, that's kind of really awful that they've done all of that in the times that they have. But if I also remember correctly, PlayStation is also increasing their prices again, I think. I remember hearing something about that, but I might or might not be crazy on that. Double check the work for me, just in case I'm lying, and I'll eat my words. But Nintendo's dominance, quote unquote, isn't technically real, but also at the same time they have been selling a lot of consoles, and it's just very confusing as to why Harman has to take something like this and twisted it to be about Nintendo. It always seems to me that just whatever the heck happens, Nintendo, this godsend, will never be under a critical lens, because they don't need to be, because they are Nintendo. And again, you'll probably see that more in the next video, because this one was actually stuff that I actually kind of agreed with him, but at the same time, he still makes some dog shit points, even when he's trying to make good points. But, any case, I think that'll about do it for this episode of I Yamp into a Microphone, and about a person yapping into a microphone. But, other than that, I think if you like what it is that I do, want to support any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough. Links down to everything that's written below. I do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. Come check out the stream and see what happens for some of the craziness in there. My name is GamePenguin21, like I said before. I also have my new album, which has been out for a couple of weeks. Singles in your area. Go out and check it out. If you want anything else or want anything specific, go right ahead and talk to me about it, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a Discord yet because this community is way too small, and I don't really want to do anything moderation-wise for the Discord because I'm already spreading myself thin enough. But overall, please like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Help me push to 1.5k because we are 100 away, and I'd really like to get to that by the end of the year. And that's really that. My name is GamePenguin21, like I said, and a peace off.